Okay, I want to make a little side video on checking the nut for the oil pump drive gear. This is on 2016 Wolverine R spec, and they had a factory defect. I assume you probably know this or you wouldn't be in here watching this video right now, but they had an issue with the nuts coming loose on the oil pump drive gear, and it wasn't keyed, which allowed it to spin on the shaft. And moving forward, you need to pull this cover. The gear is up there below the starter, but on this outside cover here in front of the starter, you can see the dimple on it. But to get that cover off, you either have to pull the engine or slide the engine sideways. I can't imagine why they engineered that way. It's kind of mind-blowing really that you can't fully service this engine without pulling it, you know, like put a water pump in it, you have to pull the engine. But the issue is it hits this cross member, this rectangular cross member here, which is, if I get my finger over here in the view, right here. So what I'm going to do is pull this side panel, pull a fuel cell, and I'm going to cut that out of there and weld some tabs on it and then bolt it back in. All that essentially is, I think, is a fuel tank mount. And then obviously it adds a little bit of structure to the frame, but I'm going to go ahead and just show you how I end up going about it. I just wanted to do a bit of an intro to it, but anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get that cut out. I'm going to pull it, like I said, pull this panel, maybe pull the seat frame. So I've got plenty of, I don't know, I'm just gonna see what I get into here. But I'm gonna get that cut out of there, and I don't expect for it to be a very big job to do. But I thought if somebody was being timid about possibly doing it themselves, that this might put them at ease, and I'll make it pretty straightforward for you. So let me get that cut out of there, and I'll follow up with you. Alright, so here's where I'm at. I've got the side cover off. The video is basically about what I'm going to do on this bar, but I will let you know the one tricky thing about this was I had to loosen the motor mounts to get this bottom water pump bolt out. It goes from right there. Let's see if I can get my camera to focus. This bolt hole right here, and it hits the frame. So I don't know why they couldn't have done just a little bit of engineering and made life a lot easier, but there's a motor mount right here and a motor mount right there with a nut on the bottom side. I believe it's 14 millimeter. I just loosened them up a little bit, stuck a pry bar under the mount, picked it up, bolt slid out. There's no bolts down there that need to come out. I think potentially probably some of those water bolts are actual cover bolts also. So that's why there's nothing that needs to come out after the water pump. But there's just a row of bolts around the outside. Pretty straightforward. The magneto kind of tried to stick to the housing. Nothing major there. My sprocket is tight. This is the sprocket that everybody's after. This one and then that one down there. I believe that's actually the drive, and this is the oil pump. And then the water pump is driven off that bottom one also. But like I said, basically no curveballs really. Did a couple of oil lines loose, a couple tabs, got the fuel tank out of the way. All pretty straightforward. So I think I've decided what I'm going to do is weld a tab to this or to the other piece. So I'll have a flat tab coming up, either there, flat tab coming off of that, and then probably going to weld it to this. I'll just weld a tab to that, have a bolt coming out, drill a hole in here and here, so you just pull that against it tight, and then you'll have a nut on both sides, and that'll just come right in and out that way. But I'll put a video up, or I'll update whenever I'm done. But I just wanted to show all this is fresh, what it actually took to get the side cover off. There's this gear here come loose, and there's also another idler inside the cover, but they're pretty straightforward where they go, so not much else to add for now. Alright, so here's where I'm at so far. I've got I ended up welding my tabs on here, and I've got to locate my bolt holes. So I've got these just tacked in. I took a cut-off wheel and got down in there and knocked some paint off, and just have these tacked for now. And then what's going to happen here is it's going to come in here like that, and then I'll have a bolt here and a bolt right here. And no, it's not going to be as strong as it was. I don't care. It's going to be strong enough. So what I'm going to do now is probably just hold this. Well, what I'm probably going to do is locate. I'm going to center punch and drill this hole, then center punch and drill this hole, and then I'll just hold that against it with one hand and run the bit through that same hole to drill this one. And then I'm going to I'll tack weld a nut on the back side of that, and then I'll just run a short, probably a 1/4 bolt through it, and that'll hold that in there. And this will get your fuel tank mount, and it got some wire stays and stuff. Like I said, is there some structural loss there? Maybe. I'm not that worried about it. I don't hammer on this thing. It's a farm deal, and I'm not worried about it. So I think it'll be just fine. Just make sure when you're tacking, I got a little bit of tack up there. You're not going to have much room to work in that seam, so make sure there's no tack on the above side of that seam. When I get done, I'll just probably weld it down on both sides, and maybe across the bottom. I probably won't even weld it across the bottom. And on this tab here, make sure you don't block that hole, because there's a wire stay that goes in that hole there. So I cut that tab a little bit shorter. That was just some scrap. The length wasn't real important. It was like 950 thousandths wide to fit inside that channel. You could make an actual piece of channel to sit down in there, run a bolt through it crossways, it'd probably be stronger. Do it however you want, but that's just the way I did it. So alright, so here's what I got. Got the tabs in, nut welded to the back side. I held it up there, and then that's the right way or the wrong way. I think that's backwards. Just a second. I held it up here, and I just ran the drill bit just long enough to dimple it where that hole was, and then took it over the drill press instead of holding it the whole time. It became pretty apparent that was going to be quite a bit of work. But let me run these bolts in right quick, and I'll show you what it's going to look like finished up. All right, so there it is. It's back in there. Nobody will ever know. Like I said, I assure you that will not cause a problem structurally having that in there like that. But if you wanted to, a guy could also saddle the outside, make a piece that wrapped all the way around that. You could run 2 bolts through it. Instead of welding, you could run a bolt through that, a bolt through this. There's a lot of ways to get this done. Like I said, it would be stronger if you had it supported on all 3 sides, but I'm not worried about it. And then, like I said, next time this has to be done. Hopefully it doesn't have to be done, but let's say I got to put a water pump in or something down the road. I just take out 2 bolts. Of course, that fell in the oil pan. And there you go. Got all that room. So I think I've got everything I can give you on that. Like I said, just take your time, and this ain't rocket science. I still don't think that thing is much more than a fuel tank mount. There's a support right there and a big support right here, so it probably helps a little bit, but I ain't gonna lose no sleep at night having a cut. So hopefully this helps somebody out.